In Spotlight, a popular Indian spiritual leader is convicted of rape, and his followers are refusing to believe his guilt. They took to the streets and started deadly riots. Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh, known to many as the God Man and the Guru of Bling, was convicted of raping two of his female followers in a case that dates back to 1999. Singh is considered a cult icon and a performer, as well as the leader of Dera Sacha Sauda. After news of the verdict, supporters protested in towns across the northern Indian states. More than 20 people were killed in the clashes. Well, joining me now is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Thanks for joining me here. This is a real issue, these riots in India.
Yeah, I think it speaks. Actually, you have to give Prime Minister Modi credit for this. This is an old 10-year case in which a journalist presented information anonymously, and the media in India started to do work on this back in 2004. And this cult leader who has 60 million followers, has a compound of over 1,000 acres, owns hotels, had actually put his support behind the Modi administration and actually was very politically involved, but had been doing some very wacky things. On the one hand, they claimed to be peaceful. They did charity work. Most of his followers are part of the lowest caste that are in the welfare system. And he had actually supported some of the demonetization that Modi had been doing. But clearly, there has been some concerns about mass castrations of the men that were in the followers, and also some of the subjugation of the women. And this case moving forward now finally to conviction, I think is a sign that Modi's trying to clean up some of the problems with religious sects. I'll remind you, a year or two ago, he actually kicked out Zakir Naik, who is a Wahhabi Salafi radical that had been radicalizing a lot of Muslims. And now we see on the other side, there's a protean mix of Sikhs and Hindus and others in this following that really were causing, as you see now with his conviction, agitation with hundreds of injuries and many deaths. Journalists, TV cars have been turned over. So this is not a small thing that has happened.
But his supporters are standing by him. Clearly, he's been convicted. He's been tried. What is their argument? Are they just standing by him because he's a spiritual leader? Or are they ignoring the evidence?
That's a great question, and we see this. I study a lot of radical Islam and some of the Islamist movements, and common to theopolitical movements is the sense that they're always victims of conspiracies and that their leaders are godlike. This man was actually, he called himself God-man, and yet they called their followers insan, which are human beings, and yet he considered himself godly, so they could not in any way see any fault in him, despite some of the crimes against humanity that were being done to some of his followers, which were very concerning. And now I think this conviction is a good thing for the rule of law in India, and hopefully, and I think it also shows that Modi, he has a large following. This guy is one of the most influential people in India. So his conviction, I think, shows that the Modi administration was not going to stand for a lot of the delinquency that this man had, and corruption.
And, India, of course, has had problems in the past with people being convicted or brought up on charges that may not have stuck or may not have been warranted. Talk about sort of the history here with this country and convictions.
Well, I think, even Modi himself, I sat on the U.S. Commission on Religious Freedom, and we were concerned when he became prime minister. He was one of the first leaders in the world that really could not get a visa to come to the United States. Now, that was obviously waived once he became prime minister. Why? Because of the massacres that we thought, and we still believe he might have been involved in Gujarati. But at the end of the day, I think that India is the largest democracy in the world. It has a majority Hindu. It has the largest Muslim population in one country. Now, Indonesia is the largest Muslim country, but there are more Muslims in India than even in Indonesia. So the Sikh community is 5%. You have a large Christian community and other religious divisions that have slowly been an undercurrent of conflict over time. And as a result, corruption's been a problem also with a lot of the political parties. And their antagonism with Pakistan has caused a radicalization of some of the Muslims within India, though they've been insulated from a lot of the radical Islamist threats like Al-Qaeda. Lashkar-e-Taiba is one of the main threats within India that had last committed the Mumbai massacres many years ago.
That's Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Thank you for joining us here on Stateside. Well, still to come, a pre-college adventure turns into 5 days lost in the Grand Canyon. That story coming up right here.